With that, I'd like to introduce Ian Small, who's going to talk a bit about what TokBox is doing. I think doing some very interesting announcements. So, Ian?
Thanks, Phil. Much appreciated. I'm just going to come out here on stage, see if we can pull this off successfully. Here we go. Nice to see you. How are you doing today? Hello, everybody.
You've gotten smaller here.
I'm coming to you actually through the miracle of WebRTC. And what's actually pretty cool about this is I'm coming to you on a device that you wouldn't normally expect me to come to you on, which is an iPad. This iPad is connected to a robot made by a company called Double Robotics. It's a telepresence robot. We're going to talk more about it in a few minutes ahead. But I thought it was an interesting way to kick off the day in terms of the kinds of things that are happening right now in the world. This isn't a prototype. This is a real product that you can buy out in the world. So let me come on out and we'll actually kick off the show.
Excellent.
So nice to meet everybody. The crowd gets bigger every time, which is a lot of fun. As Phil said, I'm Ian Small. I run communications at Telefonica Digital. I also am CEO of TokBox. So I have two jobs, one on the west coast of the US and one in London. Causes me to fly a lot and use WebRTC when I don't fly. It's pretty good. Anyway, so the thing that we're here to talk about today is a very simple idea. WebRTC, we believe, is tremendous. It's fantastic. But the truth of the matter is, if you want to build enterprise-grade commercial applications, you need more. You need more than what you can just get out of the standard. So I want to start with the first part of that message. WebRTC is tremendous. So this robot over here, what makes a robot like this even possible, quite frankly today, is the ability for developers to bring together best-of-breed components. They can bring together WebRTC, they can bring together the iPad, they can do some work. And rather than having to build every part of this robot from software stack to communication stack to motion platform, they can just focus on the motion platform and the industrial design. Because when you put together that with an iPad and OpenTalk, you get a robot. A robot that looks just like this. You can find them all over Silicon Valley and in fact all over the US these days. And the thing that's amazing is that robot costs $2,500. Which is less than the computer that many of you are using right now sitting at your table. This is the kind of thing that WebRTC makes possible, and it's how it brings the future here today. So what happens when robots cost less than computers is you start to see these things everywhere. If anybody watches The Good Wife, you will have caught one of these things on the season opener earlier this year. This is actually yet another robot, same kind, meeting the Crown Prince of Spain in Madrid a few weeks ago. This is the robot going with us for coffee because that's what our engineers like to do. This is really the bottom line. And right now at TokBox, we're kind of growing leaps and bounds. And so we're looking at new office space. And the funny thing is, every time I go and look at office space, I run into one of these robots somewhere in Silicon Valley. And in fact, across the hall from the space that we're taking down right now is this office. And I look through the glass doors and there's a double gliding past in front of everything else. So these two guys, David and Mark, they were the founders of Double Robotics. It's a Y Combinator company. So started out a Y Combinator here. They were able to build something absolutely incredible. And they're able to start changing the world because they didn't have to worry about the complexity of live face-to-face video. That takes me back to the very first place I started. WebRTC is tremendous. But it turns out that for Double to do this, they need more than WebRTC. They need a native iPad application because that application doesn't just deliver video, it also controls the motion platform connected to it through Bluetooth. So a browser app isn't going to cut it. They need a native application. They need signaling because all those messages that are moving back and forth between the driver and that device, they're coming over a signaling channel. They need cloud infrastructure because everywhere you will find those robots tends to be behind corporate firewalls, and you need to get through the firewalls through NAT traversal and all the challenges that we all know about to make it happen. So you need all of those kinds of things, not to mention the fact that you might be controlling that from an iPad, you might be controlling it from a browser. You need all of those things, and that's where we come in at OpenTalk. We deliver enterprise-grade WebRTC for commercial applications. And in fact, you know, what's going on here is that we're not just enabling WebRTC, we're enabling developers to have easy-to-use APIs, the supporting infrastructure they need, mobile SDKs for platforms like iOS, and state-of-the-art value-added services for WebRTC video. We're going to talk a little bit more about those today. But in the meantime, thank you, Double. I think we're done for the moment. So in that vein, I want to talk about three things today. One, we just talked about, it's mobile. And let's start there. So at TokBox, we only make one thing, and that is OpenTalk. And it's a platform that other developers use. So it puts us in a really interesting vantage point because we get to see lots of things going on. We don't just see one or two applications, the ones that we build. We see hundreds, thousands of applications, hundreds of use cases, lots of different verticals. So we have a really good perch, if you want, a vantage point from which to observe what's going on with WebRTC, where the challenges are, and start to solve those challenges. And one thing that we can tell you is that WebRTC is no different than the rest of the online world. Mobile is an incredibly important part of the picture. We see it every day. We see apps every day going mobile. Yeah, the robot's sexy. It's a great way to kick off a keynote. But the bottom line is that more than 40% of the enterprise customers that we are working with today, deploying and delivering apps for them, more than 40% of those customers are deploying applications that have a mobile component. It might be one endpoint with the other endpoint being browser. It might be a mixed environment with 3 browser endpoints and 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 mobile endpoints. But the bottom line is it's not just a browser-based application. This shouldn't be any surprise. You're all smartphone users. I'll bet you spend more time on your smartphone in the apps than you do in the browser. So what you're seeing from the enterprise developers and the enterprises that are delivering WebRTC is no different than what we all experience every day. So the way we sum it up is pretty simple. There's more than web in WebRTC, and that's one of the things we'd like you to take away from this conference, that when you think about WebRTC, don't just think about the browser endpoints, think about native apps, think about robots, think about your television set, think about all the places where WebRTC is going to show up. We've seen mobile use cases in healthcare, we've seen them in pre-sales, we've seen them in insurance claims management. Sometimes they're mobile to mobile, sometimes they're mobile to browser, sometimes they're mixed environments. But the bottom line is we all of us here in this room, we need to be deadly serious about mobile because it's where the world is moving. And if you want to get serious about mobile, we have to move beyond the simple, straightforward implementations that we have in the browsers today, courtesy of our friends at Google and Mozilla and everybody who works hard on the spec. We have to make it easy to build, deliver, and operate enterprise-grade applications that have mobile endpoints. We need all the things you see here on the screen. I'm not going to read them to you, but we need native SDKs, we need signaling, we need to work on phones and tablets. We're going to talk a bit more about what happens today when you get into bad coverage and how you make those kinds of things work, but these are all challenges. Mobile is hard. I'm not going to kid you. Mobile is hard. Making it work well is even harder. It's a challenge for all of us, the challenge that we're trying to help people solve with OpenTalk. So, topic number 2, groups. So, I want to talk today about groups. How many of you were actually at the big build this morning and heard Minerva talking about their application? Stick your hand up if you're at the big build. Also, it helps you blow off some of those calories from the sandwich. Minerva talked a lot about trying to set up seminar-style educational settings in a browser, and they talked about numbers like 5, 10, actually 20 streams at once in a browser. The bottom line is that we're humans, we're social creatures. Many of us are more productive when we collaborate with other people. The last time I was here, when it was in Atlanta, I talked a lot about OpenTalk's cloud scaling capability, something that we call Mantis. And we showed off Mantis. There's a video here, I think, running that shows you something about what it does. Mantis makes it possible to do multi-point video on WebRTC while dramatically reducing the upstream bandwidth requirements because we use the cloud to scale out the streams. We also use Mantis to do quality management on those streams. So also in Atlanta, we talked about audio-only fallback and falling back to an audio-only stream when people, for instance, on a mobile platform moved into a bad coverage area, or when in an enterprise they were on a congested network. So since June in Atlanta, we have spent a huge amount of time working on deployments that involve multi-point video. And as you saw this morning with Minerva, some of those things that people are trying to do are actually pretty aggressive. So what I want to talk about today is how we're advancing what we call intelligent quality control to take groups in WebRTC to the next level. So one of the things that you figure out with groups when you work with them is that as the number of streams goes up, the bandwidth and the CPU at the client become very, very precious resources. It just goes up and up and up, and as Jonathan said this morning, your Mac starts to melt. You also figure out that there aren't that many situations in which everybody in the group is an equal opportunity citizen. In fact, usually some people in the group are more important than others. So let's take a typical group. What you want to do in a group like this is devote the bandwidth to the people who matter. Now, I think we probably all know who that likely is. We need to devote the bandwidth to people who matter because at the end of the day, you do not want to get into trouble with Miss Piggy because you're never going to hear the end of it. So what's interesting about this is that video conferencing has known about this problem for a while. It's not exactly rocket science. But making this work in WebRTC, that is actually rocket science, because this is not something that WebRTC makes easy to do. So what we're introducing today is something we call dynamic frame rate control for OpenTalk. So dynamic frame rate control lets you indicate which streams in a multi-point call are high priority and which streams are low priority. And then in the middle of the call, it lets you change your mind. It lets you decide, actually, the ones that were low priority are now high priority. And this one that was high priority is now low priority. And it does all of that dynamically reallocating bandwidth across those streams without having to restart any of the streams. Now, if you're technical and you know anything about WebRTC and how it really works, this is actually a pretty huge step forward for WebRTC, because what WebRTC offers at the browser level today is the ability to statically allocate bandwidth to a stream out of the box. So you can decide up front how much goes to a certain stream and how much goes to another stream, but once you start streaming, you're done. That's the settings the browser is going to work with. If something changes in the course of that call, you can't change your mind without restarting the streams. So you can't redistribute that allocation. So let's go back to our friends. Let's say Miss Piggy is the chairman of the board, because we all know that that is the way it's going to be. With WebRTC, you can set up her stream to be higher quality than all of the other streams, right? You can get her more resolution, you can get her higher frame rate, you can get all that kind of stuff. But in the middle of your board meeting, when the CFO needs to present the company's most recent financials, he'll be stuck with his previous level of quality because there's nothing you can do to reallocate that quality in the middle of the call. You can't switch him in real time to get Miss Piggy's quality. Not how it works. As Kermit knows, it's not easy being green. So with OpenTalk, we're changing those rules. And what we can start to do is give Kermit the bandwidth he deserves. We can bring him the bandwidth he wants, take away Miss Piggy's bandwidth, and just keep the call going forward. So let's see if we can take a look at that in action. This is where it gets exciting. Everything that came before here was easy. All right, let's go over here. Everybody see a browser? Good, this is a good start. Let's go to here. We're going to open up a very simple application in OpenTalk full of people talking. There's 3 people on the screen, and I'm just going to do this so that they can probably start to hear me. Badri, tell me if you can hear me. I won't hear him, just nod. Yes, okay, awesome. So this is Badri and Lauren and Scott. And you can see if you look really hard up in the top corner here at this, where's going to be my mouse, we're pulling down something on the order of 3 megabits, 2.5 megabits for this call. So, this looks fantastic. Everybody looks great. It's all working. I can switch these people around, and I can bring Scott up to the top of the call, and there's Scott at the top of the call, and it's all good, and we're burning, this 3 megabits, 3 megabits, 3 megabits. But what I actually want to do is I want to sit there and say, no, what I want to do is I want to make this call more efficient. So I'm going to click this button that says Optimize. This actually turns on dynamic frame rate for OpenTalk. And one of the things you can see is you can still see Scott. We've turned off his sound if you're wondering why you can't hear him. So you can hear me, not him, because I am Miss Piggy at this point in time. But one of the things you can see in that very small type up in the top right-hand corner is, we can see Scott, and he's not doing great at the moment. But looks like our frame rate has dropped to something on the order of, oh, fantastic. We've got a lot going on in this network. Oh, maybe our demo is going south. But his frame rate has dropped significantly, and we're using a lot less. And what's going on is we're trying to push 15 frames per second for Scott, but we dropped these 2 signals at the bottom down to about a frame every 3 seconds. Audio is still coming through, but the frame rate has been dropped very low so that we can actually see these people. And when we move up and we look at Badri, we can see Badri looks perfectly normal. We're pushing like 500. There's Badri. He's moving. Yes, he's doing the dance. He looks good. And down here, you know, we're in a much more static. And I'll do the same thing. I'm going to move Lauren up. You notice when she came up, she was static. Now she's moving full bore. But we're still pushing at this point about 900 kilobits versus the 3 megabits we were pushing earlier. So for those of you who are wondering, when Jonathan was doing his demo earlier on today and he said, 20 streams, we're going to get 20 streams on the screen, there was a whole bunch of people that said, how are you ever going to do that? That is not possible. What we're going to do with Jonathan is move the bits to the streams that matter, all today with the implementation of WebRTC that is sitting in the browser that everybody has. No muss, no fuss, works in the browser, works in Firefox, works in Chrome, works everywhere else you'd expect it to work. But up in the cloud, we are doing the magic that makes this happen from the standpoint of controlling the overall quality of the call. So let's go back for a moment. Thank you, guys. I'm going to leave you be for the moment. Thank you, Lauren. And here, we're just going to, hang on, let me come back over here and turn this off. Wait, I have to find my screen. Anybody see my mouse anywhere? There we go. Let's just go there for the moment, and we'll get rid of all the video. That sounds good. And we'll come back over here. Never do live demos. It's always exciting when you do them live. I could have just showed you video. Anyway, so we're back to Kermit. So this is basically, you know, what we're talking about, is sitting there and saying, let's move what we can do with video streaming in WebRTC to the next level so that we can put the emphasis where we want it to with the off-the-shelf builds of WebRTC you have in your browser, and we can deliver that value. It means that we in OpenTalk are delivering value not just to the developer by making it faster and easier to build and deploy an app, but also to the end user by giving them a higher quality video experience with a lower amount of bandwidth required for them to have that experience, which means more users in more endpoints can have a really good experience. So whether you're implementing a board meeting or a classroom or a group counseling session or training your sales force, this thing that we call intelligent quality control, it's going to make your WebRTC experience better, and that's what we're trying to do with the OpenTalk and with the OpenTalk Cloud. Third thing I want to talk about today is posterity. So posterity is a basic human desire. We all want to be remembered. It's important to us. If you think about it, you know, we build memorials to people who are famous. We have gravestones for people that we love. There's a basic human instinct to actually further our genetic memory through our kids and our grandkids. But the thing about WebRTC video is that it's ephemeral. It just comes and it goes. The very nature of WebRTC is real-time communication, and real-time communication is, well, you know, real-time. So we thought, wouldn't it be nice if we could do something about that and make it possible to relive your WebRTC moments over and over and over again, because we all like to be remembered. So today, we're announcing that we've added archiving and playback as a core service in OpenTalk. What we've done is enabled our cloud infrastructure to take a copy, to route a copy of your live conversation in the cloud transparently to you, and make a clean MP4 container, record that in the cloud, all without you having to do much of anything on the development side as a developer. Whether you've got 2 people in that conversation, 3 people in that conversation, 9 people in that conversation, well, we stop at 9 right now, but I'm sure it'll be higher soon, because Jonathan wants more than 9. But at the end of the day, we can record all these streams into a single video container that is available as you end your session in real time. You're having a live WebRTC conversation, right afterwards you want to see the recording, it's there ready for you. And the amazing thing is, at the end of the day, it takes about 2 lines of code to get this done in your existing OpenTalk application today. So you can add archiving to your existing application in about 90 seconds. And all going well, if you show up at the demo tomorrow afternoon in the demo session, you might see one of our guys up here live on stage take an existing OpenTalk act, and in less than 90 seconds, because I said he could do it, I was saying 60 seconds yesterday, and he said I had to make it 90. He will add archiving to a live OpenTalk application and start recording things to the cloud and playing them back for you guys. So the bottom line is our cloud does all the work so that developers don't have to. We make it easy. So let's see if the demo gods are with us one more time. Let's go back to our friend in, go back to our friend here. Oh, I see what was going on here. We're just going to quit that. No, don't do that. Sorry. Back to the demo screen. Okay, so we're going to go to the next demo over. Got to find my mouse again. Sorry. Mouse to the right. Mouse, 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 mouse. Let's go here. So last time, if you saw us in Atlanta, we showed something called OpenTalk for Customer Service, which we're making good headway on. This is an OpenTalk for Customer Service application that is designed to support the needs of a bank. So here I am. I have a financial advisor who helps me go over my financials once every quarter because I'm a good person and I know that I'm supposed to talk to my advisor once every quarter so they can tell me how much trouble I'm in from a financial standpoint. So let's just log in here quickly. Here we go. Log in. So here I am, National Atlantic Bank. It's not a real bank, it's a fictitious bank because it's difficult to show you real banks live for a bunch of different reasons. And here I have a page that has what you'd expect me to see, right? Welcome Ian, blah, blah, blah. I can go look at, my cash balances. I can go look at how my equities are doing. I can move around about. But the reason that we're here today is because I'm here to have a call with my financial advisor. And in fact, it knows that. It's highlighted in red that I have a scheduled call with my financial advisor. So I am going to click to call Scott. I'm going to allow my camera. It tells me, hey, I'm waiting for your camera and microphone. Lets me allow my camera, and we're going to try and set this up and see if it happens. And today we should have sound. Hey, Scott, can you hear me?
I sure can. Ian, how you doing?
I am doing great, thank you. You're looking like you're somewhere on the edge of tomorrow because your background is completely black.
Yes, it is.
We need a green screen back there. Anyway, so I'm here because, as you know, college is about 12 years off, and I'm convinced the twins are going to bankrupt me. So what do you think I should be doing about that?
Well, yes, I got your email, and I've pulled a few funds for you to look at. So let me show you this one, which is called UFund.
That's cool. You fund college. I don't like that.
Okay, let's look at another one then. Let me change this one for you. That's called the Unique College Plan.
That sounds a lot better. How do I know that this is really the right thing for me?
So what you really should do is talk to one of our specialists, and let me see if we have a planning specialist online. We do? Let me invite her. Ian, this is Lauren.
Hey, Lauren.
Hi, Ian. How are you today?
I am fine. You look awfully familiar. You might have been the same person who was just in my last demo.
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. You don't think so? That was your twin sister.
Must have been.
Got it. Okay.
So I'm proposing that you guys get together and schedule some time to talk about college funds.
I think that's a pretty good idea
Sounds
because
good.
the twins, I'm just scared.
Well, I'll follow up over email and we'll set up some time to talk, but I'll leave you guys to your session.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Lauren. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
All right, Ian. Well, that about wraps it up. Let me see if I can schedule something for next time.
Awesome.
How does Feb 13 and Q1 look for you?
Feb 13 is actually pretty cool. Let me say yes to that. We'll accept that meeting. Look, there it is. It's in my calendar. Things are working good. That's awesome.
Great. Sounds great.
All right. We still haven't dealt with the twins problem. All right. Thank you, Scott. We'll move on. So that was OpenTalk for Customer Service. And if you swing by the demo booth, you can see actually both sides or all three sides of that conversation, how Scott is controlling my screen and making things come up and change and all that kind of stuff. But the thing that's interesting is what I want to point out here, if I move down, is we have this area down here. It says, hey, by the way, we're in the midst of just processing and finishing up that video call. So what's happening is the cloud has taken a copy of that call while we were having it because it's a financial call. It has, trimmed it up, did everything it needs to. It has made it available to me. You'll notice that locally my app just said, oh, look, I've been notified that video is now online. What was displayed on my screen is changing. So let's go see if we can actually see some video. This is a video that was made by the National Atlantic Bank. That's all very nice. Let's start. Today we should have sound. Hey, Scott, can you hear me?
I sure can. Ian, how you doing?
All right. So what we have here is actually a real-time capture of the call we just made that was done in the cloud on the basis of taking this existing OpenTalk for Customer Service application and adding a few lines of extra code to it. And if we wait around and we step ahead, eventually somewhere in here we will see Lauren will show up I'm sorry that my head is cut off from the video. That's not the archive's fault. There we go. Here's Lauren showing up in 3 people. And so this will just sort of keep track as people come and go in the call. It will add the streams. It will take away the streams. It will do whatever you want from the standpoint of the people who are involved in the call itself. So this capability to do real-time archiving is something that we're announcing today, and we're announcing it in beta. Let's just pop back into the slides for a moment. And here we go. Back to the slides. And so what we're announcing today is this beta. What I can tell you is since we launched Mantis in March or April of this year, which was our cloud scaling capability that would really look after the bandwidth in these group calls, archiving has been the #1 most requested feature we have seen from developers. And one of the things we've been doing is working with sort of the leading edge of who those developers are over the course of the last 6 months to come up with the solution that we're putting out today. So right now, we actually have more than 100 developers in the queue who are queued up waiting to use archiving. If you're sitting in the room and you're saying, hey, I want that too, feel free to drop by the booth and we will get you in the priority queue. The thing that's cool is archiving will work with any OpenTalk application. So if you have an existing application that you've already written, then 2-3 lines of code and you're off to the races. Archiving will work for you as well. Bottom line is at TokBox, we get up every morning trying to figure out how to make WebRTC video better. How to make it easier for developers, how to make it better for end users, and how to make it possible for enterprises to rapidly deploy enterprise-grade commercial applications. That's what we're in business to do. The thing that's interesting is today I talked about 3 things. I talked about mobile, I talked about groups, and I talked about archiving. If you swing by the booth, you can see all of those. You can see Android and iOS on mobile. You can see groups and dynamic frame rate. You can see archiving all at work. What's interesting is these seem like they should be table stakes for any live video environment. This is not new for video, but it's really hard to do in WebRTC video. And what we're doing is trying to bring WebRTC video up to the level of where you need it to be if you want to build an enterprise-class application using WebRTC video. The truth is, none of these things that seem so obvious, none of them are really covered by the use cases that drive the spec. So I'll let you in on a little secret. Real customers don't read the spec. They just hear live real-time video in my browser. And they go, wow, that's great. They dream up big ideas, they dream up wild ideas, they dream up crazy ideas. And it's our job in this room, all of us in this room, to make those big ideas come true. And just like mobile, groups, and archiving all push the boundaries of the spec, there's more coming as people dream up more and more things that they want to do with the spec. So we think that WebRTC is tremendous. We think it's awesome. We think it lets you do all the things that you've seen today. But we know if you want to build enterprise-grade commercial applications with the features that customers are asking for today, not tomorrow, not a year from now, but today, the standard alone isn't enough. You need more. And that's why we're here. That's why we're here at this conference next week to help people do that. That's why we're looking forward to meeting all of you. And I'm looking forward to talking to all of you over the rest of this conference. I'm going to give Phil back about a minute of his schedule because I think he's starting to run a little bit behind. So in the meantime, thank you all for your attention. Welcome to the conference. I hope you have a great week.